are logged on right now, and I think Hans-Ulrich will be joining us in about half an hour.
So exciting. Hey, Kostas.
Hey, Kelly.
Yay! So I'll just take a second to say that, a lot of you guys are saying, oh my God, Judy Chicago just popped up. I'm completely freaking out. Well, this whole experience has been like that for me. From meeting these guys from Serpentine, we were on calls with Jane Fonda. I was like, what? I mean, Judy, I had this experience with years ago, and I still feel like, oh my God, every time she gives some wisdom over the phone, I'm like, I can't believe I'm listening to this. So I was like, okay, we have to have this moment all together today.
I think also,
so I'm really excited that you guys are joining.
I think also people are geeking out over meeting you too.
Together.
That's right. No, I've been telling people all week that was the highlight of my entire so far quarantine, was having my class with you on Sunday.
Yeah, this is super exciting.
Yeah, discovering other forms of togetherness in this moment, for sure.
Yeah, it's been nonstop.
Yeah.
So is it okay, Allie, if I say a couple words really quick and then hand it over to you?
Great. I'm just gonna post. I'm gonna post the link publicly, so you go ahead, and then we'll
post a link too.
Okay, my name is Carissa, and Amanda and I have started, if you were here now, a site online posting about artists doing things that they find therapeutic. We are super duper excited to have you all here, and welcome. Hope you all are safe as well from wherever you're calling from, which is crazy looking at this list, how many people are coming on from different parts of the globe. We really appreciate you being here. Happy Earth Day to everyone. And
Happy Earth Day.
Yay! So without further ado, I guess Swoon's
already.
Well, Judy's not quite back yet either. But if anyone has any questions again, or needs help with audio or visual, just chat me and I'll try to help you as best I can. So this is sort of insane.
I'm trying to figure out how you type and how you
or say that again.
We're gonna have a Zoom learning curve here.
All right. Hi guys. Hi Ernesto. Okay, so just to give a little background on what we're doing. So Judy has been working with the Serpentine Gallery. The Serpentine Gallery has started this great initiative, a few different initiatives, Back to Earth, It's Urgent, some projects that are really trying to call artists together around and Judy also has been working on a project that she'll tell you about. And so she really started to try to gather people together, very much in her way of organizing, longtime organizing. And, I also have a history of organizing and a history of just like, all right, let's just do it. Let's just get it done. And so I think that when when those two very similar mindsets came together, we just got so excited and we were like, okay, let's keep going with this. Like, let's see if we can get this snowball to grow. And so, she is just so deeply connected to so many people within the arts. And so between Serpentine and Judy, they called in Jane Fonda, they called in Greenpeace, the National Museum of Women in the Arts, have all been involved in launching this. And so we just kicked it off 2 days ago. And it's something that I feel like, we're all coming at this from a few different places, but for me personally, I really believe that in this moment that art is one of those tools that can help us express things that feel sort of unexpressible and to comprehend things that feel incomprehensible. you know, because it's working from such a different part of our system and of who we are. And let's see where Judy is at. Maybe we'll call her. Do you think, are we ready? How many people are on?
We've got 225.
Okay.
And I'm just going to post the link because we had 500 people sign up, so we're missing some of them.
And so, you know, another thing I just want to say before we start is that I'm personally, I'm not coming at this from an expert place. I don't have a lot of art to show where I'm like, here's my super successful art that addresses climate crisis. I've certainly brought the climate crisis into my creative process at times. But in fact, I really feel like this is a moment where we're learning together. So yay, hi, Judy.
I hear you have 225 people there.
So far, yeah, we got a full registration and I think they're just kind of trickling in, but.
That's very impressive. So what do you plan to do today with them, Callie?
Well, what we're gonna do is just kind of go through some like writing and drawing exercises, kind of just like guided thinking and prompts just to get us into kind of our creative brains and into kind of just focusing our attentions on the climate crisis and on our creative selves.
And everybody is here to do something for Create Art for Earth.
I think so.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Let's see. You want me to talk about the origin of this project?
Yeah, I mean, I would just love to hear you kind of explain what you're thinking and to just inspire us a bit so that we can be fired up to be making.
I don't know, that's a big demand, inspire 225 people, that's a lot.
Every time you talk, I always leave like, yeah, we're doing this, so, you know.
Well, my own interest in environmental issues goes back actually a long time. It goes back to the 1960s when I was living in Pasadena, and Richard Serra did a show at the Pasadena Museum which involved cutting down redwood trees and piling them in the museum, which made me furious.
Wow.
And I had a big fight with him about it, and the next day he arrived at my studio and pounded on the door, and I went downstairs and there he was holding art for him. And he said, you might not like it, but they did. So ever since then, I've been on a collision course with the disregard for the planet and the disregard for living things. And over the years and the decades, that has intensified until my most recent project, which was called The End, a meditation on death and extinction. And the section on extinction and what we're doing to other creatures on the planet was way harder to look at than the prospect of my own death, because I came face to face with things I knew, but I didn't really understand at that scale what was happening. So for example, there's one image called Thinned, that's about the thinning of sharks. It's done when they're alive and they're left to sink to the bottom of the ocean where they can't swim, they can't hunt, and they suffocate. And we do that to 100 million sharks a year. So it was the scale of it that was so staggering to me. And the realization that these are sensate creatures like us. And the climate crisis is not only starting to disrupt our lives, but it's just been hell for these creatures all over the planet. Anyway, Jane Fonda, who I know, was on her way to Washington to start Fire Drill Fridays when my show opened at the National Museum of Women in the Arts, and she came to see it. And also, I had been in touch with Hans Ulrich for quite some time, he did a project called It's Urgent in Europe, in which he commissioned artists to address issues that they felt were urgent. He himself has been very interested in the whole issue of extinction and how we're treating the planet. And so out of that kind of confluence of Hans Ulrich and Jane and me all in Washington, we started talking about bringing his It's Urgent project to America, but in a more focused way, because I was somewhat critical of the kind of art that some of the artists were doing. You know, the art world is very fond of conceptual and theoretical art, and there's nothing conceptual or theoretical about what we're doing to the planet or to other creatures. It's very real and it's very hideous. And so slowly, since September, we have been formulating a project. At one point, Swoon, I reached out to you before the coronavirus started, the pandemic started, because I thought it would be right up your alley in terms of enlisting artists. Because, I mean, as you know, I've always operated on the fringes of the art world because I'm interested in social change rather than money. And that's put me at odds with the artists, with the art world. But anyway, so I'm just thrilled that all these partners have come together to launch Create Art for Earth. And, you know, I just have this image, even while we're in our houses and can't go out, of art just appearing all over. Art, images of healing, repairing, alternative images, images that lead the way to a different world. Because if we do not change course, we're doomed, and so is the planet.
Absolutely.
Thank
Rock and
you.
roll.
Yeah.
So take your talents and see if you can make something that make some images that will cause people to think, to change their minds, and to change. Go.
Thanks, Judy.
Sure.
Thank
Mwah.
you.
All right. So that was really wonderful and inspiring. And so the next thing that I would like to do is to just lead us through some kind of contemplative and thought and drawing and writing exercises. And we're gonna try to just move through things pretty quickly. A lot about just getting in touch with instinct, getting in touch with kind of the subconscious and free association, because that's so much the seat of where our real creative selves lies. And so I just kind of designed a few little exercises, which I'm just thinking of as like a tool to focus our consciousness, to get us all together and all thinking about the same things at the same time. And yeah, before I start, I just want to read this quote. So I was looking at Robin Wall Kimmerer last night, who wrote Braiding Sweetgrass. And she says, Joanna Macy writes that until we can grieve for our planet, we cannot love it. Grieving is a sign of spiritual health, but it is not enough to weep for our lost landscapes. We have to put our hands in the earth to make ourselves whole again. Even a wounded world is feeding us. Even a wounded world holds us, giving us moments of wonder and joy. I choose joy over despair. And so a lot of what I would like to do today is about getting us in touch with the honest feelings, the fear, the anger, the despair, at the same time as getting us in touch with our resources, with where we're powerful. Because, I think of it almost like in my own like therapy process that I undertake personally. It's all about this titration between confronting the truth and also like giving yourself enough resources and power that you feel like that you can get through it. Okay, so I just want to start with some exercises. Does everybody have paper and pencil and markers and stuff ready? I'll give you a second to get that. And so the first thing that we're going to do, it'll probably take 20 minutes, half an hour or so. So we're going to do some free associative writing and drawing and exercise. And we have 4 prompts. And on each of the prompts, we're going to do 1 minute of free associative writing and then 3 minutes of free associative drawing. And so it's going to look like this. For each prompt, you're going to draw 1 circle and fill it up with words. And then you're going to draw another circle and fill it up with images. And I'm going to time it. So I'll just say go for 1 minute, stop. And it's one of those things where this is just for us. This is just to get us thinking, to get our juices flowing. You don't necessarily have to show this to anyone unless you want to share. But the idea is that it will kind of get us some material generated so that we can start to make rough drafts. So the first thing is, let's just kind of take a deep breath and think about the feelings that came up when Judy was talking about bending the sharks, right? The feelings of rage and the feelings of anger and the feelings of helplessness. And those are those feelings that can really bring people into a lot of despair. And so the first thing I want us to do is draw our 2 circles. And starting now, we're going to spend 1 minute on fear. So we're not going to get into anger yet, but just like what comes up for you when you think about the fact that we're in the middle of the 6th, actually not starting yet, sorry. When you think about the fact that we're in the middle of the 6th extinction, that we haven't had an amount of species loss on the planet like this in 65 million years. The last time was the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. So just try to hold that in your mind and understand that that is happening, and it's happening now. And then bring up those emotions and now start to write. And so I'll be timing us. So just write about the fear, write words that come up in association with the fear that you feel when you think about that fact. And the vulnerability that brings up. Okay, now in the next circle, in that same free associative way, not stopping, just doing, draw the images that come up when you bring these feelings to mind. We're going to draw for 3 minutes. Doesn't have to look good, stick figures are fine.
This is in the other circle, not the same circle.
The other circle, yeah. And you can go out of the circle.
Hallie, there's a question. Can you show and explain the 2 circles again?
Yeah. So you get to see my excellent drawings. So these are my excellent drawings right here. So really stick figure, just a note to yourself really. And on this side is your words. So very free associative, just anything. It can be as irrational as you want. just any images, any words that are coming up for you when you're putting yourself in the place of the fear that you feel in the face of the sixth extinction. Okay. Take a deep breath. That probably brought up, I'm over here drawing my own death and all kinds of things. So I know it's kind of intense. And okay, so the next prompt is, let's get another piece of paper. We're gonna draw those two circles again. And we're gonna spend a minute thinking about what you are the most grateful for and the most in awe of in your life, about this planet, about the life that you live, just about the world as you know it. Spend a minute writing down words about your awe and your gratitude. Okay, and now let's spend 3 minutes in the next circle just free associatively drawing images that come up when we think of awe and gratitude. Okay. And so for the next prompt, I want us to think about anger. And I know that a lot of times there's a real relationship between fear and anger. And so to just try to separate those things out, for me, I'm somebody whose fear turns to anger really quickly. And so trying to identify fear in a vulnerable way and try to identify anger in all of its different forms. So starting now, we're going to spend a minute just writing words that free associate about anger, or anger at this present moment. Okay. And now keep going and translate those into images, and just try to, I'm finding it's a little hard to just draw images, but just try to kind of access that part of our brain that even when we want to explain something in writing on the next circle, just draw it out anyway. No matter how awkward or weird or lumpy it looks, just as a note to yourself, as a way to access that deep down part of your brain that only thinks in pictures. What does your anger look like personally? Can you even see in there? Or is it totally dark? Okay. Take another deep breath, shake that one out. And then the last prompt is going to be draw another set of circles, and we're going to be working on what you consider your sources of power, of courage, of hope. You know, where do you feel like you're effective and you get shit done? Let's free associate about that first for a minute in words. Okay. And now let's spend the next 3 minutes translating those thoughts into images and letting new images arise, all on the subject of where we get our courage and our hope and where we feel really effective. All right, so that's for that exercise. So maybe we'll just spend a couple minutes if a few people want to share about just anything surprising that came up for you. You can unmute yourself and we'll just spend like 3-4 minutes sharing. I'll start by saying that I was surprised that my anger is quite homicidal, it turns out, which I don't think I necessarily want to put into my work, but it's good to know that. It's good to see that. And then where I feel hopeful and effective had a lot to do with gathering and with getting people together and thinking about moments. We've made that happen. So anyone else want to share things that, hi Reggie, how are you? Do you want to share first?
What's that?
You want to share first?
Yeah, I think, yeah, the biggest thing for me was just kind of just the correlation between the two or several like set of circles. You know, the universe, you know, has kind of been a thing that I've been really thinking about, and how just overall just a lot of our, you know, our challenges, or maybe my challenges or the issues that I go through, seem pretty small and is insignificant, you know, almost in a very humbling way, in a way that helps me, you know, really appreciate, you know, a lot of things that are going on. But then also at the same time, you know, I also have that like feeling of insignificance and stuff, and the things that I do, and comparing that to other artists, makers and stuff. And so it's just, yeah, I guess that's like the best way that I could describe it at the moment.
So kind of noticing, like feeling humbled and held within the largeness, but also feeling kind of lost within it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I guess on one side it helps me, you know, not maintain such a big head, you know, when it comes to the work that I do, and you know, just having that humbleness, I guess.
Can we see your little page? I just want to see what your scribbles. Can we see your page? I want to see what your scribbles look like.
Oh goodness, yeah, it's yeah. Give me a second here. Let me see if I can.
All right. Anyone else want to share? Oh, you got it. There you go.
Yeah, so
Nice.
something similar to that.
Yep. Cool.
I'm not so great as far as like my little sketches, as you can see. But
no, I mean, that's why I said to show it, because we're all just like in our scribbles. All right. Thank you so much, Reggie.
Yeah,
Good
of course.
to talk
Thank you.
to you. Good to finally meet you in person. I mean,
you as well. Yes.
Cool. All right. Anyone else have thoughts?
Yeah.
Anyone else have thoughts they want to share? How about you?
I'll share if.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So I was just, I didn't mean for all the circles to connect, but I ran out of shape.
Yeah.
And I thought I was really interested when I realized that the fears were sort of hiding behind the hope. And I feel like that's a lot of what I've been doing lately, is sort of tucking them behind the things that I'm trying to be positive about. And it kind of came out in the drawing that way.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's such a good point about, you know, the relationship to the sort of fear and anger and paralysis and how it relates to our hope and positivity. And I'm a real believer that we have to confront what scares us and that we have to really spend time with it, which is why I had us sitting down writing about our angers, because I just think that there's not going to be a true way to move forward that doesn't first confront those things. And so, yeah, that's an awesome point. Okay, so before we start thank you for sharing that, not even just a point, a sort of observation about the human condition. So before we get to the next set of prompts, I just wanted to show somebody who does like a word and image combination that I really like. It's an artist named Scott Erickson, who collaborated with a writer named Justin McRoberts. And the first one says, my value for this world and the people in it, may my value for this world and the people in it extend far beyond the uses I have for them. And this is the image and word combo that they put together for that. Yeah, isn't that nice? And then the next one says, may I never grow tired of starting over or helping others do the same. My hope is always in renewal and resurrection. And then
What's the title of that book again?
it's called Prayer, 40 Days of Practice.
All right, thank you.
And then, yeah, let me see. The last one is, may the depth and energy of my criticism be at least equaled by the depth of my commitment to help. And here's this. And I just think that that's so important for us right now because, you know, as we get into the space, I'm sure that we all know from experience that a lot of times activist spaces and people who want to do good, like nobody pulls each other apart and pulls each other down like people who want to do good, in my experience. And so that's why I wanted to share that one, is to just think about how, while we're doing this, can we remain heart-centered and remain in a place of generative energy and expressive energy that's really just about kind of being our soft, tender selves as artists and trying to kind of understand ways to move forward. And so next I want to ask 5 questions, and we're just going to do a little 1-minute response to each, just free associative writing again. Yeah, so we'll just go through these questions and then we'll work on some more drawing after that. So the first question is, if you could wave a magic wand, and you can write or draw to this, we'll just spend a minute on each one. If you could wave a magic wand to preserve and protect one place, one species, one ecosystem, what would it be? What would yours be if you could do that in an instant right now? And why? Okay, and the next question is, what's one thing that you understand or that you think about a lot and that you wish you could help your fellow citizens and people in power understand? If you could communicate something, if you had another magic wand that could help them understand this thing, what would it be? Okay. And the third question is, make a list of ways that you specifically are skillful and powerful and resourceful. What are you good at? What is your thing that you bring that it's just your own kind of talent? Okay. Now, do a little bit of writing on recalling a time that you and a group of people did something together that was surprising or awesome or really effective. And, this can be anything from throwing a birthday party to staging a big protest to creating a work of art or getting the kitchen cleaned up. Just think, free associate about times that with a group of people you got together and did something good together. Okay. And then the last question is to recall a time or a bunch of times when you knew something, but you didn't know why, you just knew it. So this can be anything from those moments that you think of your friend and then you pick up your phone and they texted you, to a time that you just knew the direction that you should take in life, even when everyone thought that it seemed irrational, but you just knew what the right thing to do was. Let's spend a minute just writing about those times that you knew and you didn't know why. Okay. And so the reason that I asked that last question is because I think that that part of ourselves that just knows is this kind of incredibly ancient and actually incredibly powerful part of ourselves. And when I think about who do I want in this fight? Who do I want to come online and be prepared to try to make something happen? I think about enlisting that part of ourselves, this deep down, this knower. And I think that the reason that art making is so important is because art making is connected right there to that knower. That when you're in that place where you're just generating images and you don't even know why, and you're letting them flow, you're really being guided by those very powerful forces. And so I just want to invite that into our practice. And so I was thinking that we could spend the next 15 minutes just kind of free associatively drawing together, just kind of looking over the images that you drew and the words that you wrote down, maybe if there are any quotes that you brought, you know, just kind of like spending a time imagining that you're making one or a series of rough drafts that are just for you. They don't even have to be great, but you're just kind of generating. Like, imagine that Judy says, hey, I really want you to be part of Art for Earth, and she's super excited that all these things are happening, all these people are here, and we're like, oh, what are we gonna do? And so the goal isn't to generate anything final, but just to get things, you know, get the mulch turned up. And during this time, you know, we'll all just be drawing together. If you have a question or a comment, or you want to share something, you can unmute yourself and talk, but we'll also do a little Q&A and share at the end. So for the next 15 minutes or so, let's just kind of focus mainly on drawing.
One little question.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to think about the 5 items that you just sent, or the circles and the motions, have them all mixed together?
You know, I think my idea with the circles was just to get us generating stuff. So I'm kind of looking over mine now just to see like if they spark anything. But now I think we'll just sort of cherry pick. If there's something that you like, just go with it. So now we're just kind of following instincts. And even still, we don't necessarily have to create something finished. We can just kind of expand on anything that stood out.
Okay, yeah, it was just to clarify, yeah, if I was looking at the circles or the exercise that we just did. Okay, thank you.
You can, but just for inspiration.
Okay,
Yeah. And I'm continuing to make notes on my piece. I'm drawing really sketchy, really just kind of continuing to brainstorm and just generate ideas and just kind of free associate about what do I care about? What are the messages that really resonate most with me?
I just want to say I've never done anything like this before. So like my brain synapses are like firing like crazy. So thank you.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you can make it. It's good to see you. Yeah, I'm enjoying myself too. This kind of thinking is hard. I find it challenging, which is part of why I wanted to get us together to work on it together and be inspired by Judy, because I think that, you know, there's a whole world of political art making, and there's a whole world of kind of instinctive, intuitive art making, and I would like to see this kind of flowing back and forth between those languages, and to just get kind of more and more involvement. And like we were saying, not, you know, even folks that don't consider themselves artists or activists, just like, where's your voice in this?
I wanted to say thank you for having us. I think that this is a really great experience, and I've never been involved in something like this. And I couldn't stop thinking about the anger circle and how much politics is about, it is destroying our universe or our world. So thank you for allowing me to share.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, one thing I think about a lot is the folks that I am most angry at, and that I'm gonna bet a lot of people here are most angry at, are, in my opinion, people who are projecting the shadow. Is kind of just like a term in psychology, which means that they are truly not in touch with parts of themselves, truly not in touch with fears and angers, and that so much of the destructive behavior that we're seeing is pointing the finger, blaming others because you can't see it in yourself, and trying to accumulate wealth because you can't deal with the fears of your own mortality. And so that's why I was so inspired by Judy. You know, she's in her 80s, and she's looking totally honestly at the fact that she will die, and we will all die, but she knows that she's going to die, that more than half of her life is over. And I really believe that understanding is part, that bringing us back into an understanding of our own mortality is part of this process too, which is why I found her Death and Extinction series so powerful, because so many of the people who are destroying our planet, they want to believe that we'll never die. They want to believe that they're immortal and that their children will not be affected, and it's just not true. And you know, we don't want to be downers, but like, where's the way to get in touch with the truth, and in fact the beauty of death and the beauty of the finiteness of our life cycles? I mean, that's one of the questions I ask myself a lot.
May I see that you said that, because, oh, hey, sorry, do you want to go?
Sure, I don't know, whatever. I'll be
yeah, go for it.
Okay, I'll be super short. I just wanted to say on that note of what you said so far, you spoke earlier about the fact of being our soft, tender selves as artists. And to hear you say that, Caledonia, it felt so good. And it reminded me of how important, how valuable it is for us to be all together now as a community of artists from all over the globe. How often, if you guys think about it, how often the people that have power have zero tenderness, zero softness. And we are soft and tender, and we are vulnerable, but we're super powerful because we're vulnerable and we understand what is going on out there. But because we're so soft and vulnerable, we are often deemed as simply, I don't know, they don't give us voice very, very easily. And so it's very important, in my opinion, for us to have the opportunity to all be together in order to experience how powerful our vulnerability is, and how important socially and politically what we're doing is.
How
Thank you.
You come together and you're strong.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I was going to say, that's so beautifully said. I do feel that as well, like in my day-to-day, when I see people who aren't taking care of the earth, they're not caring about themselves and they're not caring about their community. And so it all goes hand in hand. But I thought it was really interesting talking about like figuring out and thinking about who you truly are and getting into the truth. And I had written a truth as a shadow to like a self that was trying to open up to like to see the truth. And I live in Louisiana, and so there's a lot of racism and there's a lot of people who are really extremely religious in ways where it hurts to see that like they're not actually caring for other people. And so I do wish people could like be that vulnerable, you know, be vulnerable with themselves and be truthful with themselves at who they are, and join that community of other people who care, you know.
Yeah. So it sounds like that something that you'd be interested in with your own work is helping facilitate people to be vulnerable with themselves and to be truthful with who they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oops.
So in about 5 minutes, we'll start having people, we'll do like some shares. So maybe in about 5 minutes or so, think about whether or not you wanna hold up what you've drawn and talk about it. And again, no pressure, I'm over here with serious scribbles. So this is all about just being a rough draft, supportive. You know, if it's beautiful, great, but if it's janky but you have ideas you want to talk about, that's good as well. And of course not everyone has to share. I don't think we have time. So just think about if you feel inspired. About 5 minutes.
Hi, is it okay to share before the 5 minutes is up? Okay. One thing that I've been observing is the way people are struggling with time. You know, you can't plan anything for the future. And for me, it makes me realize that maybe I also struggle being present. So I just drew some like kind of silly things because I think that being present is really important and there's a good consequence from it. So I drew like a fish counting down the days of quarantine, because here in Texas, nature is booming. I'm seeing fireflies in the suburbs. I'm seeing, you know, birds come to my yard. The fruit trees are blooming. And for me, that's been kind of like one of like the shining lights of hope in the future, is just to observe what's around us and kind of see it grow and see that life cycle without being so future focused.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for doing this. I think this is really, really cool. I love being a part of a group at a time like this. And again, I think it's, you know, something that's on my gratitude list is participating in this, because, you know, even in this troubling time, we can come together and start to use our own collective like voices and struggles. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate it as well. I appreciate the ability to be a part of it, because I am also quarantining in alone in New York in my 1-bedroom apartment. And you know, I'm connecting with folks all the time, but I haven't done any kind of hopeful group activities when we
Our
until I
lions, boy.
and then I was like, oh, this is so, and so yeah, I'm really feeling you guys' energy and appreciating it too. Thank you.
Girl lions, right?
What, baby?
There can be girl lions without names, right?
Yeah, there are.
Told you.
Well, the lions that have manes are the ones.
Are male lions. Females are the ones that
See this? I don't know if you can see this or not.
I don't know. It's not. Are you Diane? Are you
Diane? Yeah. Can you see it or not?
No, nothing's showing up. Do you want to hit your video?
Where is that?
You have to take a picture at the.
Oh, I see. Start video.
Yeah, try that.
Try that. Can you see it? No.
Not yet.
Okay. Even if you can't see it, I can tell you about what happened while I was working. And I took the last workshop that you did, which was really wonderful with the paper cutting. Thank you so much for that, because it was really great. What happened was being able to make myself be more vulnerable than I've been so many times. And what happened is the piece actually has brown paper, and on one side I have the positive part of me, which I really started out making my two daughters, but I have one part which is the positive part of me, and the other part, let me see if it.
Oh God, what's that high-pitched noise?
There we go. It's gone.
Got me. And the other part was all of the anger and the fears, and they're coming together with the water, and over the top there are hamsas and
now we can see. Do you want to show us?
Yes. I don't know, it's very light.
Okay. Yeah.
There are hamsas up here, the two women, the water's coming about here. Curls. My daughter's curls are taking over and combining to hopefully take care of me, I think. And I think you gave me that today, so thank you.
Well, all of us together, right? Gave it to each other.
Yes,
And
you all did. I mean, it's been a really wonderful sense of community today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
Hi,
I make this kind
I'm so
of.
sorry. Hold on 1 second.
Yes.
Oh, I like that.
Thank you. I guess I can start talking, or should I wait? Maybe I wait.
Yeah, go ahead and wait. Maybe
Yeah,
in this moment, does everyone want to?
Okay. So I made this collage, or it looks like a collage, but it's all like just painted, and it's more. It's about the feelings. You can see a little bit of thinking about the earth as another species that is housing us. And the earth is kind of like falling into its grave, and all sorts of animals and things jumping out, and then humans kind of interacting around it. And it's just the current moment in time, and the importance of nature and creation.
Nice. We can really feel your creative brain just going there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, and that beautiful, beautiful piece behind you.
Thank you.
Kelly, should we have everyone hold up what they've done just to kind of to share, and we can, if anyone's interested, you can push gallery view at the top right.
Okay.
And
oh, there we go. Now I have you guys on gallery. Yeah, so everyone hold up what you've done. Cool. Oh, wow. This is so neat. Wow.
I'm sorry, could you tell me where the gallery view is again?
yeah, so if we, oops, let's see. So it's at the top right. It says speaker view, or you switch over to gallery view.
And it's like a picture of a bunch of squares all together. It looks like an old school phone keypad.
Yeah.
And then you can actually, and then there's arrows on the left and right because we have many screens because we have so many people participating, and you can scroll through the screens.
Yeah, I see the screens. Thank you.
Oh my God, this is so cool. This really feels like my image today is of the fireflies blinking. That's like what I worked with. And I'm like getting so emotional because that's what this feels like right now, like looking at all these screens. It's like all of us just like blinking out our little thoughts and our messages and our drawings to each other. Oh my God.
Did anyone, I'm having trouble figuring out how to take a gallery view. I'm actually on my phone. I'm one of the only people on my phone right now.
Oh, the phone is hard.
Yeah, I think on your phone you're not able to do it. I'm also on my phone. Not like 50 people at a time.
Some people that I know.
And then there's a couple people who have learned how to raise their hands, so I want to make sure they get a chance. Are they them?
I'm trying to turn my camera around so you can't see me. I did this. I don't know if you can see it.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. I'm going to go back to speaker view. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Oh, we've got phases of the moon, and oh, it's beautiful. Those are like tarot almost, the swords. What's going on there?
Tarot.
Nice.
Thank you.
On your phone? Whoops.
I don't know how to turn it around.
There's a little file folder that has the arrows going around.
On your phone, you can see gallery view by swiping. And it goes through everybody for the person who asks.
I think I got it.
Let's see, Kate Quarford has nicely.
I'm unmuted. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been really. Say again.
I love the pictures, everybody.
Yeah, it's amazing to see everybody's, especially in this grid view. I'm getting chills over here. I was really moved by that last question, to go into that place of really deep knowing, that intuitive place. And I've been recently kind of channeling out these landscapes that are made by writing. And so this is the one that came through today, and all of this, like the color, the pigment, it's in the form of prayer. I'm really like obsessed with this idea that our world, and I think it resonates a lot with that Joanna Macy quote, that it's, even though our world is so broken, it still holds us, it still bears witness to our stories and our kind of interweaving paths that we're walking through it, and even the ways that we destroy it, it's there and it's bearing witness to us. And I'm really moved by this idea of like writing out prayers into the landscape, like incantations. And so what came through was this real overwhelming sense of hope and this possibility of what if we are the generation that is this pivot point in history that actually can take these steps to save what's being lost. So it's really a powerful experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks for articulating that we shouldn't just assume that we can't be that generation. We should assume that we can be. And I didn't even realize it until you said it. I was like, yes, yes. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Callie?
Hi.
Hi. Is there any way you can set up something so if people take these pieces to the next level, that there's a way we can share them and we'd all be able to see them?
So what we can do is when we share them, we're gonna hashtag them, Create Art for Earth. And then you just search the hashtag, and there's gonna be, and there will be, you know, it'll be mixed in with other people's art, but everyone who makes something for this should hashtag it, Create Art for Earth, and then we can look at what we've all done. All right, anyone else?
Let's see, L, they, them. Did you want to go? You had your hand raised nicely on here.
I did have my hand raised. Thank you, and bless all of you. I just had this idea, and anyone here maybe wants to do it. But if one person actually collected all of the images that everyone made today and made a piece with it, that would be so dope. I'm willing to, but there may be someone else who feels even more excited than me. But yeah, sending lots of love.
Nice. Amanda, is there a way if people email you pictures of their images, is there a way we can send it all back to everyone, or is there something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Post it on a page for today.
Yeah.
I don't want to give you guys a huge task, but just in case there's an easy way to do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Go ahead and I'll type on the message, but go ahead and send.
Can't you just put it on a website?
Sure.
And also I should say about this project, so the Create Art for Earth project, there are a bunch of people who are hosting. So I'm hosting, Judy's hosting, Jane Fonda's Fire Drill Fridays is hosting, Greenpeace is hosting, the Serpentine Gallery, and NIMWA, National Museum of Women in the Arts. So they're all combing through the hashtag, and they're gonna be reposting things, you know, here and there. They'll just kind of grab stuff that seems to fit their specific moment or organization, or just kind of speaks to somebody, and they'll be cross-posting them across their feeds and channels as well, to kind of amplify the voices of everyone who's participating in this.
Do you want to take more questions, Callie? There's a couple people.
Yeah, maybe let's take a couple more questions, yeah, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, Kimberly Letty.
Yeah.
Are you still there?
I just had to unmute really quick.
Yeah.
Well, this was the piece that I did, so it's not really a question.
And it's a share. Yeah, let's share.
And I teach high school. So when you ask the question, if you're not an artist or an activist, what can you do? And I think teaching is an art, but I'm not necessarily an artist, paper artist.
Sure.
I find that my, I guess my gift is being able to facilitate. So when I did this piece, you know, I have all these faces of my students on my shoulders, and then all this information.
Yeah.
Because what makes me really angry when we did that thing is that just the lack of resources out there. And I know most of you think there's not a lack of resources, but when my kids think environmentalism, they think of recycling, and then they're done.
Right.
So they really have to look for things about the sixth extinction, and then they think it's a conspiracy theory. Right. So I really want to open up the curriculum for that.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a wonderful point. I actually had no idea that that was the state. And if anyone wants to type in the box, if you know of any resources, you know, like I know there's a group called Climbing Poetry that that sometimes forms like curricula for schools around. They did one around Hurricane Katrina. Soulfire Farm is another group that does like farming, and I know they also try to work with students and build curricula. Allied Media Conference is another place that that has a lot of resources. Just Seeds is an artist cooperative. So there are definitely some folks that are building curricula, and if anyone knows any others, maybe write them into the box, because I think that's such a great point. I'm really glad you brought that up.
Let's see, Rachel Krager, would you like to share?
Hi, thank you so much for doing this. It's so nice to be here with everybody. And I just wanted to share mine because I just felt like I wanted to approach this with this like childhood sense of wonder. And thank you for opening up my, you know, mind and creativity and loosening things up. And, you know, I've been thinking a lot, you know, just being separated from people. I've been thinking a lot about trees and how they are the lungs for our planet. And just like we have to take care of our lungs during this pandemic, you know, how it's striking humans' lungs, we have to think about the trees as the Earth's lungs. And, you know, that's something that's really been on my mind. And just even looking at trees and seeing how they, you know, are blossoming now, or just, you know, struggling to come out of this slumber, and every aspect of that, just how the branches are almost touching and close but not close, and space between them, and just all of you know, the ideas of pollination and seeds. And so it just got me really flowing about trees and earth, and I really hope that this has an impact on some people to make some positive change. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say that that's one of the things that I love about art, you know, that it's not, there's no science to it, which means that if you think about the human lung and you think about a tree and you find a way to connect those images, and then you find a way for that to speak to somebody about, like, hey, the sickness that you feel right now is the same sickness that's being felt in the external world in this moment, and then realizing how that can communicate to people on this physical, personal level. And I just get so geeked when that stuff starts going, like, with the creative process. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
See, Callie, did you want to?
I think Moira's going to share.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking so much about, I was also thinking a lot about roots and trees, and it was an image that kept coming up for me. And when we had that prompt to think about a place that we really wanted to save, I got like this image of the rainforest. And I thought, cradle of knowledge where roots grew into the hearts of human sinew and taught us the truth about our deepest self who rose from those roots. And I was thinking about the heart, and then also that we have a world that is filled with hearts that are not only human, there's hummingbird hearts and wolf hearts and dog hearts, and that we depend on the beating of all these hearts. And that also, when Callie was talking about grief, and then somebody was saying politicians who don't seem to have compassion. And I think it's kind of coming out of like a denial of death. And I was also thinking about the heart as something that's always in the process of dying. Yeah, and so that's just kind of where I was at with all of that.
Yeah, beautiful. And the new piece that you made, I just saw, was incredible. So,
well, this one was the working on yesterday. Was the
yes,
the handmade of roots. So symbolically, it's something that just keeps coming up for me, that we are this network and root system, and then that's kind of where we rise from. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, I think that we can start wrapping up, unless anyone has anything that they want to share. Is there any other people waiting to share?
I just wanted to say thank you again for the last class on Zoom, and also the artist that just shared. That was a beautiful piece. This has been really rewarding as a high school teacher. Like many other on here, it's really a hard time, and so finding different ways to connect that can be meaningful with artists is really important. My husband and I have created a lot of murals with students, and so I would agree with the teacher that said our students often think about recycling and what's right here in Iowa. And so to get them to think past that is often really difficult. So a couple of things that I know our kids can connect to is like clean water. We live in an ag community, and so like runoff and that type of thing can be really impactful. And also like the bees in our farming community are also very important. So I was thinking about something with like being mindful and respectful and be kind, that they can be the change. So kind of going with that. Awesome.
Yeah, and ways that they can connect it tangibly to what's happening in their backyards, and that the loss of the bees is going to affect the world, but they can see it. Now I think about, I grew up in Florida, and my entire life it sounded like we had 10,000 ducks in the yard because of the tree frogs, until about 6 years ago, and now it's silent. And it's one of the most heartbreaking things I can think of, that something like that would go silent. And we know that they're the canaries in the coal mine, and that they are the fragile ones, and that's one of those changes that you can see in your life, and that you can know, that we all know in these you know. And the other thing I think a lot about art, the first time I made a piece about the Anthropocene extinction, the thing I kept thinking is that, you know, I can hear the silence of the frogs in my backyard, but that's all I see, because I live in New York City. I live, you know, the weather's beautiful today. Like everything seems fine. There's food at the grocery store. Like, how do I get myself to believe that there's a problem when my daily experience is actually a wonderful experience? And so being like, you know, this event is large and slow moving, so much so that it's almost out of our perceptual capacity, that our, you know, we are set up to perceive things at a certain speed, at a certain rate, at a certain size. And this is kind of outside of that. And so I feel like it comes to us as artists to translate some of those experiences.
Thank you so much for all your work.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Callie.
Yeah, and I'll just share mine. I just started to, I was thinking about this fireflies image, and so I was just drawing, thinking maybe when I make a poster, I'll think about what are the different messages that are being carried by these fireflies, and so I have one of the fireflies is saying all living things are a who, not an it, and another one is saying pause, slow down, let it heal, and another one is saying only take what you need. And so there's all these fireflies with all these messages, and that was what I was drawing. And then when the screens popped up and everyone was holding up their messages, I was like, ah! Like it just felt really, I felt that so much. I felt really quite connected to this. And so the last quote that I picked is also from Robin Wall Kimmerer, and she says, "To love a place is not enough. We must find ways to heal it." And I think that that's where we're at. I think that we're asking ourselves, what can we do with our own talents and our own passions and our networks and our communities and the specificity of our places? How can we find ways to heal ourselves and to heal our places at this moment in our communities? And yeah, I just really appreciate everyone coming together to think about that.
Callie, I'd like to tell you what's been happening over here in Florida. My son and I, we were talking and we started doing the homeschooling, and you were talking about how we can go through our day and not realize really what's happening because it just happens so quickly. Sometimes you turn around and then you realize half of the ranchers are gone. And I've been documenting that with my photography. And my son, you know, started talking about things and how he became very self-centered, of course, because you get that way. And I took out my macro lens and I said, let me show you a whole other world. And now he's obsessed, and we spend like hours in the morning, the two of us with our cameras in the bushes, in the grass. We were watching, what kind of worms were they, Nikki? Some worms procreate this morning. Oh. Because it was on our porch. I said, well, we're not the only ones here. but it's just, I think being able to show them that and show them that there's a whole other world that you just don't see.
Yes, a shift of scale. That's so great. My God, I spent one summer with a microscope. I discovered pollen. I was like, what is this magical jewel? And then I was like, oh, this is pollen.
Yeah, I got sick like that last year photographing it, thinking it was so beautiful. I was
doing some major multitasking right now. Just leading a large Zoom conference. And
so I don't know if I can say anything. May I speak?
Okay, let me get Tasha in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I have to
create a thing first, right? How do I do the multiple?
I think we should mute you, Amanda.
Add people. Oh.
We'll just mute you until. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Should I speak?
Sorry.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say hello to everyone because I'm in Italy, so we've been at the forefront, sadly, of this disaster, and so I haven't had the experience that you guys spoke about of not seeing it. We've actually seen it because we have so many people that we know that either are sick or. And we've had issues with like finding groceries in the grocery store. So it's been very hard. But as artists, we've been reacting very powerfully. And we have been an incredible, artists in Italy have been an incredible, how can I say, resource for the resilience of Italian society as a whole. We have been organizing all kinds of events to give hope to people. So many like live poetry events, reading events, art lessons events. And so even if the economic situation is a disaster, I think that there's this huge cultural change in Italy so that people are really seeing in their daily life how important contemporary art is, literally for their psychological well-being, for their mental
I want
well-being.
you to come here right now. Because I asked you to.
I don't know who's speaking.
Yeah, sometimes if somebody is unmuted.
I love it. I've been doing screenshots of all of this because we've been like isolated literally in our home for 2 months at this point. Opportunity to actually be talking with other artists and be hanging out in this way is such an incredible nourishment. But I want to bring a message of hope from Italy. So art is important, art is fundamental, and hopefully people in broader society will recognize that without us they go fucking crazy.
Here, thank you.
And that gaze, the gaze that you spoke about, the gaze on pollen, the gaze on the backyard, the gaze on the flower and the flower pot, they managed to do it because we taught them to. Damn it. Thank you. Love to all.
Thank you.
That's so wonderful that you're sending us hope. Like, I hope that we're able to send it back to you.